Hello. All right, I am trying this live thing, and I made some slideshows, or I made some PowerPoints here, so I gotta get them. They saved them out of order for me. Okay. Where is it? Okay, there it is. Yay! Okay. Hi, everyone. This is so awesome. Okay. This is great. I am so excited you guys are joining. Hello? Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm just going to wait a little bit for a couple of people to pop on. You guys are going to have to manage with me because I made like slides and then I had to figure out how to like put them in. So you guys are kind of my guinea pigs. So this is great. Okay. Sweet. Well, I think I'll just get started so people can just I don't want to waste your night. But welcome to my first Instagram Live. I'm super excited you guys join me. I know everyone on here, so this is really sweet for you guys to join me talking about how to manage stress. And if you know me, you know that I want to make sure you guys are staying healthy and well. And it's just my passion to just educate. So that's kind of what I'm up to with these Instagram Lives. And feel free at any time to ask questions, comment. It's almost like raising your hand in a class. And I will do my best to answer all your questions as we go along. Okay, so then I want to, so managing stress before stress manages you. And in health and wellness, you guys, we can tell you all sorts of, things to do, exercise and all that stuff. But if you're not managing stress, you're actually kind of sabotaging your health more than you might realize. And so I have this, oh wait, hold on. I'm trying to get the next one coming. Ooh, choose a different, there we go. Okay, thank you. Just trying to get this figured out. Okay, so this is so true. No healthy diet can beat prolonged stress. And while I'm definitely a proponent for a healthy diet and supplements, don't get me wrong, I love a good supplement. The stress level that we are all dealing with, you guys, is kind of astronomical and more now than ever. And I think all of us are just feeling it. It's like compounding. And at this point, I think we're all like, I don't even know how to handle my life anymore. Things are just, right? So it's probably why you hopped on to learn how do I manage stress? Because I need help. And so I just want to let you know, yes, a healthy diet will make a big difference in the long run. But most of the people going to the doctors are because they're stressed chronically. You see that fun little stat I have on there, 90% of primary care visits are because of chronic stress. Well, that means we all have it, right? Because that's a lot of people, 90%. So what do we do about this? I'm going to get to the next slide here. We have to the first thing we have to do is figure out what stresses you out, okay? It's like, we have stress everywhere. But one of the things we have to do is start by identifying what the heck is stressing us out. And it could be anything, you guys. There's millions of things that can stress us out. And so the first one, we have to kind of figure out, is it current stress? Is there past stress? Is there future stress? And then if that's the case, then you're like, okay, now I'm going to take out a piece of paper and I'm going to write down, what are some traumas that I went through? What are some fears that I legit am dealing with that were past, current, future? What are some situations that are out of our control? Well, we can all say the pandemic is pretty much out of our control. And so we can't really do anything about that. But yeah, we can write that one down. And then, we can keep going with all sorts of things that would stress you out. And I don't know if you guys wanted to shout out in comments, what are things that stress you out? What are the things that trigger you? And I'll wait a moment if you guys wanted to comment, just so I can see if you guys are hearing me, and I want to see if you guys have anything to say. Okay. And how do you recognize stress? Okay, so there's one question. Okay, good. So how do you recognize stress? There's all sorts of, physiological things that cause stress, or that stress causes upon ourselves. And you name it, there's going to be, blood pressure, anxiety, you can't sleep, weight gain, you're just fatigued all the time, you have no energy, and eventually it starts to get to where you're just kind of maybe just have no drive for life. And that's kind of scary sometimes, because in my opinion, we weren't put on this earth to just do nothing and be fearful and just be stressed out all the time. No, that's not how we're wired, right? But I want to kind of continue to go to what are some of the ways that you're rejecting or sabotaging yourself, when we're talking about what stresses you out. And I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that you guys have said. Ooh, okay, good. I'm going to get to some of those things you guys commented. But ways you reject or sabotage yourself. Now, I want to kind of spend a little time on this one, because if you look to the root of stress sometimes, it's because we kind of have an inner critic. We're kind of hard on ourselves, and we're like, okay, well, I have to have this perfect, and I have to have, this ideal job, and I have to have a home, and I got to be able to, look good, and, act the parts and do all the things perfect. And sometimes why are we putting that pressure on ourselves? And usually there's kind of it goes back to maybe we feel like no one's going to value us. Maybe we're going to feel rejected, or we're not good enough. And so I know I would caught myself doing that a lot of times with, previous occupations or previous situations, where you start getting yourself busy and you're in a tizzy, and you're just like, okay, and I'm not gonna, I have to provide for myself, and I gotta get this perfect, and if I don't do this well enough, then I'm not gonna survive, so we get ourselves worked up, and in a way, we're sabotaging ourselves for what, right? And so we think it's for a good cause, but it's kind of a deep seat that can cause fear and more trauma, and things just spiral, right? Okay, what else do you guys have? So unemployment, moving, those are super stressful. Students, right? Those are things out of your control. You're managing their stress, right? They're piling it on you, and you have to hold it all up, right? You just got to keep it together for everyone, and that's stress. Oh yes, the feeling overwhelmed, too much to do, too little time. I hear you, right? And that's part of what I was talking about. Some of the times the sabotaging ourselves is we are trying to do too much. We're trying to pack it all in, and sometimes we just need to be like, wait, hold up. Let's just take a breather. If I don't do that pile of laundry, if I don't fold that laundry, is it critical? I mean, you might think it is, because we might really love a clean home and like organized and everything, but you have to kind of figure out, well, is this stress worth piling on myself, or do I just do it and not stress out about it? Okay, yes, okay, good comments so far, you guys, thank you. So when it comes to what's stressing you out, I highly recommend sitting in this moment and sitting in this place. What stresses me out? Write them down. Is there a situation that occurred? Maybe an interaction with someone that creates this like anxiety, a flood of anxiety. Is there, car accident you were in that you think about driving down a certain road, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, all of a sudden I'm getting really stressed and fearful. And these are triggers. These are triggers that kind of keep us suppressed into like just this like bundle of we have to worry about everything because you never know, right? So when you identify what stresses you out, you can quickly, as it comes at you, be like, whoa, pause the brakes. Here we go. We don't have to identify with this. We don't have to like take it on. We can kind of just put a force field barrier and just be like, okay, I know that's a trigger, and okay, what am I going to do about it? Okay. So it's not like I have all the answers because everybody's situation is a little bit different when it comes to stressors and triggers, but I do know that identifying and then maybe talking through with, loved ones or, journaling, or just kind of be like, you know what, it's going to be okay. And I'll get to that a little bit later on, some of the steps that you would want to work on getting past some of those triggers. But first I want to talk about how your nervous system handles stress. And this is getting to the physiology of, stress and like your nervous system and what truly is happening. So we have these two nervous system parts. And maybe you've heard of them. It's your fight or flight part and your rest and digest part. Well, in, medical terms or whatever. It's called sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And fight or flight is when you have to be running and you know something's coming after you. And we need that, right? We need to get things done. We need to be able to lift a heavy car if, something was on somebody, right? You've heard those stories. And then the opposite is rest and digest. And so we have to take the time to counterbalance, right? They both are necessary and we need them. It's like a checks and a balances, okay? So that is how we are wired. Now what happens, I'm having to find my slides here real quick. Fight or flight seems to be our dominant pattern for living on this earth, okay? So though a bear might not be running at us all the time, how many of you feel like a bear is actually running at you? Okay, like on your daily just general thing, you probably feel like you're running from a bear. That is fight or flight. And if you were to understand the physiological thing it's doing to us, first thing it does, it increases blood pressure because guess what? We have to put blood out to be able to run. The second thing it does is it suppresses your immune system. And it does that because, well, you're not exactly going to be taking the time to make new cells and, launch antibodies and, B cells, T cells. Your body's like, no, I got to run. I got to survive. I'll figure that immune system out later. So it suppresses your immune system. One thing though, it does increase your focus, right? So maybe you guys have seen, okay, I got to get some things done. I'm under pressure, but I'm focused. I got to, right? And that's because if a bear is chasing you, you got to be able to see where you're going so you don't get eaten, okay? The other thing it does is it decreases your digestion, right? Because you can't be exactly, breaking down that steak, and be like, oh yeah, a bear's coming. Oh, let me just digest that steak. No, all the blood goes away from your digestion and out to your arms and your legs so you can run. The other thing it does is it keeps glucose in your blood because you need energy to go, okay? And then on top of that, it decreases your sex hormones because, well, I'm sorry, you're not going to be doing anything special because you're going to be running from a bear. And then on the next thing is it reduces your protein uptake, right? Because you're not digesting. So if you look at all the list here, if this is going on every single day for you, your body is in a chronic fight or flight situation. You're not going to break foods down. You're not going to absorb protein. You're not going to, necessarily want to make sex hormones to make babies. And so then your hormones get all thrown out of whack. And then you have blood pressure issues, you're getting sick, okay? So you can see physiologically this heightened fight or flight is really hard on us long term, and we are not made for that. But that's what's happening. Thus, 90% of the times you're going to the doctor is because your body is stuck in this mode, and that's not good, okay? Now, there's a more specific term that when you are in fight or flight, there's this specific hormone produced called cortisol. And cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and that's made in your adrenal glands. And I put that with the little picture. They look like little kidney beans in your body. Well, it's those little yellow dots. Those are your adrenal glands. And they make cortisol, and they also make two other hormones that are epinephrine and norepinephrine. And it's so you can respond to stress. And we need to respond to stress. However, like I said, long term, it's really hard on you. But we need to survive, right? We need to be okay, let's take care of, the babies, the kids, the groceries. We got to do that. We got to get it done. But sometimes we don't know how to turn it off, and that is our chronic issue. And that's where it's not good, right? So we have to understand what the heck stress is doing to us on a consistent basis. Now, one thing you have to understand, stress, our body doesn't know whether it's good or bad, okay? And I'll kind of just explain there. Sometimes you hear about good stress and bad stress, like, oh, it's good, we need it. Well, our body sees it as stress no matter what, okay? It raises cortisol, it'll raise epinephrine and norepinephrine. And the point of this is because if you are feeling stressed, your body doesn't know the difference, okay? And so sometimes just knowing that we know our body's creating a stress response, it could almost help us to manage, okay, I know this is stress, my body's doing its thing, I gotta just tell my body it's okay. And so there's this thing called perceived stress and real stress. And perceived stress is going to be, oh, I think I'm going to lose my job, or oh, I think someone hates me. That's perceived stress. And that's kind of stress that you kind of can make up, and then you end up realizing, oh, it's not true, right? And then there's actual real stress. So like taking care of your babies and, grocery shopping and cleaning and doing your job. So just so you know, our body doesn't know the difference between the two. Either way, it has to respond. Okay, next slide. Now, getting stressed out is common, isn't it? Right? Would you guys all agree that I think on a daily basis, we're probably feeling like we're getting stressed out? And it's so true. I think to just all the moments and the situations that we've kind of put ourselves in, and we will get stressed out over just the silliest thing, right? And for some reason, it seems to be, in a way, like kind of our family maybe sets up the stress. And I'll give a story of my father. Love him, but he had a problem with getting stressed out, and it was just the funniest thing. You knew what Dad's triggers were. And I will never forget, Dad would get stressed out if he could not find a pen or a pencil. Okay? So think about this, right? We're all in the home doing our thing, and Dad would just lose it because he couldn't find a pen or a pencil. Okay? And, just thinking back to that, Dad was chronically stressed. He was a single dad. He was managing things. He was doing his own business. There was 5 kids that he was having to feed. And it was just, I couldn't understand Dad. He was stressed out, and a little missing pen or a pencil was the trigger. Now, I know personally I've done that to my own kids, not necessarily the pen or a pencil, but I know that I've let the stress build up, that it's the silliest thing that's like, boom, explosion, and you're kind of just rage, right? And I want to just take a moment to just say that is all of our perceived and real stress. And there's the triggers, there's the previous things of like, why am I getting stressed? Why am I hanging on to this? And then now I'm taking it out on others. And then guess what you're teaching your kids and your family and your coworkers on how to do? You get stressed out and you react, right? And so sometimes for some people, it's a competition, it's a tradition. It's like family stress is almost as if, well, I'm better than you because I have more stress. And so therefore, I get to be the meanest and the most crabby and like lash out at people, right? I mean, have we all experienced that? Or maybe there's a relationship that we've experienced that. Okay, well, we might want to encourage that if you're in that boat, possibly, maybe take a moment to be like, whoa, I might need to work on what are these triggers? Why am I taking out on others? Because I don't want to set the tone where I'm passing the baton of how my kids handle stress. Because your stress creates stress on them. I hope that makes sense, right? I think we all feel that. When somebody has tension and stress, immediately we take it on. And that's not cool. So I just wanted to bring that part up because family stress is probably one of the biggest triggers, I would say, right? How people handle their own mess and their own skeletons in the closet, and maybe the things that they never healthfully were able to cope with. And so they use stress as their coping mechanism, and that can get really hurtful for some families. Okay, so the next one is, now that we've kind of made you aware of just stress and what it does to your body, the thing is, you guys, stress is not going away. I'm sorry to burst the bubble. It's not going away. It's gonna be around, right? So what I have to teach you in this class is resilience. I have to teach you how to manage it, because if you don't manage it, right, things are going to happen. So the management part is the tools that I want to talk to you guys over the next couple slides. And number one, you have to recognize where your stress is coming from. And that's where I really, really encourage you to deep dive, do some soul searching, and figure out, where is my triggers? What is going on? What's my beef? And then I need to figure out how I can manage my body, right? Help my body to go overcome some of these things, okay? So hang with me. I got to change these out here. I love this little graphic. So you're going through your day and you feel the pressure building up, right? And it just happens. Like I said, stress is not going anywhere. But the pressure cooker feeling that we all feel, and sometimes you're just like, I can't take it anymore. This is just, right? And you want to explode. Well, the tools I want to teach you in the next few slides are the valve release, okay? And you have to remind yourself every day you have to manually release the valve. Otherwise, right, you're going to be ending up with all the staying in that chronic fight or flight situation, okay? So you want to think about your body as it needs pressure relieved. So some tips that I'm going to suggest, there's two types of tips. The graphic, when I saved this, sorry, it kind of glitched a little bit, but you can still see it. So external tips on how to manage your stress, right? So these are things we can do outside of our body. Sleep is the number one critical thing that you can do for managing stress. And that's actually going to be my next class that I want to talk to you guys. I'm going to be doing these Instagram lives every 2 weeks. But stress is the most important thing when it comes to stress management, or sleep. Sleep is the most important thing. And then a sleep pattern. You have no idea, right? I can get 8 hours of sleep, but if I'm going to bed at midnight and waking up at 8, and then the next day going to bed at 9 and waking up at 6, if I did the math, I probably did the math wrong, right? Our bodies don't like the ever fluxing situation. Our adrenal glands, right? Remember those cute little adrenal glands? I kind of equivalent to them to kids and puppies. They like balance. They like routine. And so when you have a routine sleep pattern, you're going to really help your adrenal glands to be able to recover. Okay? Now, movement, that's the next thing that I have on there. And I could have just put exercise, right? And don't get me wrong, exercise is very much necessary. But movement in general, whether it's walking, whether it's swimming, whether it's even, I have this thing called the chi machine and it shakes your body. That's movement. Yes, weightlifting and cardio. Yes, all of that matters, because think about this. If your body's in fight or flight, it feels like it's got to run. It feels like it's got to get that movement. And so if you can do movement on a daily basis, it's as if you're telling your nervous system, yes, okay, I took care of that. I don't need to stress out now. And so that's where movement is huge. And as a chiropractor, I always say movement is life. If you can put that in your notes, movement is life. If you're not moving, you're not living, okay? The next thing that I absolutely love doing, if you have a bath, is Epsom salts. And you'll see in the next slide, magnesium is the number one thing that I suggest for stress. Well, that's what Epsom salts are, if you didn't know that already. And the premise is you get into the bath and you get blood flow going, and then your body absorbs the Epsom salts, magnesium and sulfur. But magnesium is a natural muscle relaxer, and it makes this neurotransmitter called GABA. It helps your body to make this calming neurotransmitter. And so it's really, really good. And then on top of that, magnesium is responsible for 300 different types of cellular interactions in your body, okay? So yeah, if you all know me, magnesium, 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 right? Another external tip would be music. There's something powerful and just, playing some good tunes to make you feel good. Maybe some piano music, some cello, some stuff that doesn't always have words, so that you don't have to compute, but that your body just says, okay. Worship music is really good too. So yes, I think we all understand the power of music. The big thing too about overthinking, right? Downtime, not overthinking. It's one of those situations where we get so worked up that we freeze. And so then we're thinking too much that we can't do, right? That's kind of that frontal cortex where the fear and the brain shuts us down because we're overthinking. And so sometimes you just don't overthink it and do action, move, and you'll be amazed at how that'll just calm you down. Of course, my favorite next one would be Bodywork, chiropractic, massage. If you had any idea how powerful touch is for the nervous system, you all would be running every week to get your chiropractic adjustments and massage. And you guys, it's the power of touch and getting in there and releasing all the tight things and getting your body so it's like unwound actually helps you to sleep. And it makes your nervous system communicate better. Okay, so it's kind of like an undamming off your body, and if you get that off you, your nervous system can communicate and regulate better, okay? And you ask any chiropractor, what we do, sure, people think we crack necks and backs. Actually, the very first thing that we're taught in school is that we are nerve doctors and that we do the adjustments to keep the nervous system alive and well, okay? It's really cool. And then sunlight, how many of you are feeling the winter blues? I know I am. And sunlight is huge. You can also buy these things that are light therapy so that you can kind of get the radiance of sun so that your body thinks that you're outside, because there's huge benefits and research when it comes to seasonal affective disorder and just kind of feeling stressed and lethargic, and right, it can mess you up when you don't see the sun, and we all know that. The next one is one of my favorite ones, is time management skills, okay? Screens, I'm sorry you're on a screen right now, and hopefully some of you, you'll be going to bed a little bit later, but screens are, we love them and we hate them, but they're almost becoming the nemesis of our health. And I think you all can relate. You understand how much screen time is affecting us. And I mean, maybe shout out in the comments of, you get on your phone to take care of a task, and before you know it, you're on 5 different bunny trails, and an hour later, you're like, what was I supposed to be doing, right? If that doesn't cause stress, right? You were trying to take care of something, and your phone got you distracted. So there's some time management skills where there's a lot of really good books out there that talk about right away in the morning when you're getting up, take care of the things that you need to take care of, and not your 5 million emails and not your 5 million texts, because then you're becoming reactive and doing stuff that's going to get you like, okay, I'm not getting anything that I need to get done. So they say block off 1 to 2 hours for yourself right away in the morning and get those done. And yeah, people can wait on an email or a text for 2 hours. And there's something really powerful in just setting those time management skills that you've taken care of the big chunk of, what you got to take care of. And that right there is stress management. Okay? The next one is going to be practicing gratitude and choosing joy. And this is a choice. There's so many times where we are stressed to the max, and isn't it pretty powerful the moment that you start to think about how thankful you are for others, or that, you know what, I'm feeling down in the dumps and stressed, but I do know that people love me and I love others, and you know what, I'm going to choose to look at the good versus the bad. And that right there will like take you out of that stinking thinking and kind of that stress, like, right? And so that's one of my favorite ones, is choosing joy and choosing gratitude. And then along with that, there's so much power when you hear others talk good things and others are happy. And I love a good podcast. I love good self-help books. I love seminars where, you're taking yourself out of your bubble per se of how you think, and you're joining a cause bigger than yourself. And when you join a cause bigger than yourself, you start to see big picture perspective that you're put on this earth for good things, and stress is part of normal, but it doesn't have to consume you, right? And so some of those stressful things you have to do are just necessary tasks. And like I said, if you can manage just the stress of, getting the things done that are really important to you so that you can keep doing your purpose, it's amazing how that perspective change brings down that pressure, right? That it releases the pressure valve. And then, of course, quality time with others. We are literally made for others. Like, I was thinking deep long time ago of like, what is the point of, like, what are we doing here on this earth half the time? And yeah, it's to like, do stuff. But the real key that I've realized, we are made for relationships. And it's funny because here we are in a time when we don't probably see each other very much, or we're not getting a chance to actually connect face to face. And that right there is stressful because you don't always get to really read people's emotions and body language when you're through a screen. We love technology, don't get me wrong, but I think you all would agree there's something so incredibly anti-stressing when you get together with a friend and have a good deep talk. And that's what I call wise counseling, laughing, and just kind of brainstorming, how do I handle these stressful situations? And sometimes just being in the presence of someone, that right there is just like instant calming, right? And then boundaries. That's its own seminar or talk. But I want to encourage you guys with an external tip when it comes to stress management, setting boundaries. This was something really, really, really hard for me as a doctor. And I'm going to give you a little story that when I was in chiropractic school, it helped me to understand boundaries. And so I had this professor, he was a lawyer and a chiropractor, and he was teaching us, it's called jurisprudence courses, meaning just, legal things and whatnot, with all the, you gotta always know legal things with chiropractic. And he said that it stuck to my mind forever. And he said, you are not a bus, okay? I'm gonna say that again. You are not a bus. And I'm like, what? Okay, what does that mean? You don't have to let everyone on, okay? And as you're thinking, you're like, what? Because there's times in chiropractic you can't help everyone, and this is going to totally sound insensitive, but there's certain times where you want to help, but you just feasibly can't help a person because it's either not in your wheelhouse, or maybe they are just, really stressed out. And, I'm trying to give a nice example. and so from that, you're not a bus, meaning you don't have to always take on everyone's problems. But sometimes along the journey as a bus, you might have better coping mechanism skills, or that you're in a better place in your life that you can let that person on your bus. So that doesn't mean you have to just breeze on past everyone and be like, bye-bye, suckers, you're not getting on my bus, okay? No, it's not that. It's just knowing that you don't have to take everything on is power, okay? And so that's a boundary. So that teacher, that professor was telling us it was a boundary to protect yourself, okay? So hopefully that analogy, okay, good. Miss Jarnot, you said it makes sense. Okay, good. You too, Jana. I love that. Okay. Moving on to now internal tips, okay? And so maybe you guys can pat yourself on the back if you are doing any of these internal tips. And magnesium, right? I said magnesium is like, if I could make a bumper sticker, I have a serious love for magnesium. And this is now you're getting it internally and externally, right? Externally through Epsom salt baths. Oh, and I forgot to say, if you don't have a bath, there's lotions and sprays. Sometimes you can take a hot water and a rag and then make the Epsom salts in there and like just soak that and then put that on your back, right? And just soak it in the heat. Something very powerful at just getting magnesium in, okay? Now, internal magnesium, if you're wondering the dosing, I'm very specific about how much magnesium you need to get in daily. And if you're a female, it's 500 milligrams a night. And I say at night because sometimes you can take magnesium and it'll kind of give you the rumbles, it'll kind of move your bowels, sometimes too much. And so I like taking magnesium at night, and then I wake up in the morning, have a nice bowel movement. Men, I suggest 800 milligrams a night, okay? The next one that I love is adaptogens. Some of you might know these, and if you don't, I'm going to kind of rattle it out. I'm just checking here. Oh, yes. Watch out for the person that doesn't want help. They want to pull you into their stress. Yes. I know it's tough setting boundaries sometimes. But the more you do it, and you do it out of love and compassion, you don't have to feel that guilt, right? All right, so adaptogens, I wanted to speak on that because your adrenal glands make cortisol, and they make epinephrine and norepinephrine. Adaptogens are adrenal gland support, and those are going to be like those big words that you hear. That's like ashwagandha, rhodiola, lion's mane. Oh, what else? I have one here. Let's see. Shoot, I can't see it. Okay. Not thinking of. Anyways, so like this is an example. This is one that I take. It's called Cortisol Manager. And the purpose of it is to support my adrenal glands and to help manage my cortisol levels, because I'm, right, just like you guys, I'm high functioning, I'm pushing through, and I physically need to support my organs and my glands while I'm doing life, right? So that's how I'm managing stress, is adaptogens. Love adaptogens. And there's a lot of really good supplements on Amazon. I don't have any specific one that I recommend. This one's been good, Cortisol Manager by Integrative Therapeutics. But you can literally go on Amazon and read the reviews on adaptogens, okay? Or this like adrenal support or cortisol support, okay? So they're kind of a common name. The next one is less sugar, and I think you guys probably know my stance on sugar. If you don't, I'm going to give a quick story. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was in chiropractic school. And, oh yeah, thanks. Sorry. Okay, good. Yeah, licorice is an adaptogen. And St. John's wort, is it an adaptogen? It's more of a brain stimulant or kind of a, not stimulant, but like just kind of calms the mind. So it's not in that category of adaptogen. It's going to be more for the brain, if that makes sense. Less sugar. Okay, so when I was in chiropractic school, I was under a lot of stress. I was eating horrible, and the most horrible thing I was eating was sugar, way too much sugar. And I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis as a result. And someday I'll just share my story on that and just kind of like how I overcame multiple sclerosis. But the number one thing that I had to do to heal and stay healed was cutting out sugar. And that's probably the number 2 thing, right, that I'm always talking about is magnesium, and then cutting out sugar. There are a lot of tips on how to reduce that, and I'm probably going to talk about that after sleep management, because sugar is such a beast. It's such a beast. Hard to give up, but when you give it up, your world is rocked in a good way, okay? All right, water. When you are dehydrated, believe it or not, that alone increases your cortisol levels, okay? So staying hydrated, huge. And that's just one more reason to drink your water, because you don't want to increase your stress. B vitamins. I have a company that I really love, Seeking Health. I really like their, there's many forms of B vitamins that they have. And if you follow my Instagram, you might have saw that I'd made a quick reel on B12 and how B12, there's 4 forms, and there's cyanocobalamin, methylcobalamin, hydroxycobalamin, and then adenosol, I can never say it, it starts with an A. And so there's 4 forms. The cyanocobalamin, when you consume it, it does form byproducts of cyanide. And, most of them are saying that, it's fine, cyanide's fine if you can detox it out. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. That's just a general, like, okay, fine in moderation situation. Well, same with sugar, right? And processed foods, fine in moderation. Well, if we're taking on all these toxic loads of, poor vitamins and poor food and stress and environmental toxins, it adds up. And so I prefer the B12 forms that are not cyanocobalamin, and that's what Seeking Health is, okay? Reducing caffeine, as you can imagine, caffeine, what it does is it actually increases your epinephrine and norepinephrine, and that's why it gives you energy. And then you'll see usually eventually like it kind of crashes. And so if you can reduce stimulating right from that caffeine, you're also going to help your adrenal glands. And then I think we all know that rule that you can't have it after 2 p.m., right? Because then your body naturally needs to calm down at night so it can actually sleep. But if it has too much epinephrine in it from the caffeine, you won't be able to fall asleep. And I think we've all had that situation happen. Holy basil and Egyptian licorice tea. Those are really good teas that are called adaptogen teas. And those calm your adrenal glands. And then those are really good to drink before bed. They don't have any caffeine. So it's a nice calming tea just to help get you into a relaxed state. One of my favorites, and I actually do this here and there, is Frankincense Essential Oil. It's not this one, but it's like, here's an example of for like essential oil. And I will literally drop 2 drops under my tongue and let it kind of get into my system. And there's research that says it reduces cortisol by 40%, which is pretty darn good for couple drops of frankincense essential oil. Now, granted, you want to make sure it's high quality. So I'm a Young Living person because I know that they really work hard on making sure the quality is really, really up to standard. And it's probably, they're actually I guess you could say, the top dog. They're the one that started it all. And so that's why I just stick with Young Living. Okay, melatonin. I want to talk more about that when we talk about sleep. However, if you're not getting good sleep, it's possible you're not creating enough melatonin. And that is one of those things that, with the sun and the moon and right, like the light and the dark, when the sun comes up, your cortisol naturally rises to wake you up. And then when it's dark, your cortisol has to go down, but then your melatonin has to come up to make you sleep. And you want melatonin rising because that repairs all of your cells. And that helps your body then to be able to take on the next day with like gusto, okay? And so melatonin, you usually have to start slow. Because if you just start going gangbusters on it, it's like your body it's like that's too much. You might like wake up really groggy the next day. So some people start with 1 milligram and then maybe work all the way up to like 5 milligrams. And you shouldn't need any more than that, okay? Sometimes your hormones can be off and that's causing a lot of the stress. One of my topics, I want to talk all about hormones because, man, you guys, whew, we have become some hot messes with the stress of pandemic. And so I had to back it up and slow it down and say, okay, before I get to talking about hormones, we have to talk about stress and stress management. Otherwise, I'm doing you a disservice, right? We'd be like, hey, do this for your hormones, do this for that. But then if you're still stressed out and you're having all these triggers, you might as well not even do anything, right? So that's why we're doing this talk first. Internal infections. Sometimes you can have, like right now there's viruses going around. There's bacterial infections. There's parasitical infections. There's yeast infections. And so we might not realize it, but there's things going on in our system that our body's having to fight, right? There's the thing, fight. Our body's having to fight. And so that's that's stressful on our system, and we might not even realize we have an infection that's chronic, okay? So you have to, handhold maybe with practitioners if you suspect you're doing that. Which, by the way, mold toxicity. You can have a lot of mold toxicity in your home and not realize it. And I would encourage, if you suspect that, look up the symptoms for mold toxicity, and basically you become a hot mess and you don't realize what's happening. It's because your immune system is just off the charts, not knowing how to handle being in chronic mold. And then certain foods can cause stress. You could even feel this. Let's just say you're eating a certain food, and then all of a sudden you're just feeling like kind of anxious, or your heart starts to have palpitations. That's like a food allergen, or it's an inflammatory food that your system just like, I can't handle this. Too much stress. I have to launch an attack, right? And so pay attention if you know there's certain foods that you're consuming. The top ones are going to be like your dairy, gluten, soy, corn, eggs, nuts, right? So those are all the common allergens. And if you find that you are one in that category where you have food sensitivities, that alone, you have to kind of handhold with others on how to eliminate these food triggers, heal the digestive tract, and then you can reintroduce some of the foods back. So me personally, for the longest time, I could not handle dairy. It would create all sorts of horrible responses on my system. And I had to do some gut healing. I had to get a ton of probiotics into my gut, because I was deficient in the proper probiotics, and I restored that. And then to this day, I can handle cheese. Like I used to have it where I'd have a piece of cheese and I'd have to go to the bathroom within 30 minutes. And so now I enjoy cheese and no issues whatsoever. No bloating, no cramping. Okay, so if you relate to that, that's definitely something to talk about. Okay. And then alcohol and drugs, whether it's recreational or prescription medications, believe it or not, that can actually cause stress on our system if there's interactions and you might not realize it. So keep that in mind. Too much alcohol, right? Of course, that messes with the liver, that messes with blood sugar. Long term, not good for you. Occasional, like red wine, that's considered more healthy, but it's the other forms of alcohol that can be really hard on your system long term. Okay, and then the other internal tip would be stop that inner critic. Okay, because right, we talked about beating yourself up. That is an internal tip. That's where you are allowed to say, stop beating myself up. And then the other thing is there's this victim mindset that sometimes we get into where we are like, okay, someone did that to me, and oh, how could they, and why me, and oh, my life is horrible and everyone hates me, right? We know that victim mindset where you turn yourself to be reactive, right? Your lens becomes reactive against what everyone is saying instead of proactive. And so that's one of my internal tips, is to like switch it around. When somebody says something to you, don't automatically like, well, you did this, right? It's you have to switch that. I'm not a victim, okay? So I know that's kind of so many good ones. Next one, you guys are doing so good. We're almost there. Okay. Where is that slide? Okay, almost there. Okay, there it is. Okay. So with segueing from those internal tips, now here's where my pep talk is to you guys, okay? A lot of times when it comes to stress and stress management, we feel powerless. Like we do. We're just like, I can't do this. I just might as well just give up. Oh, my life sucks, right? We turn into like the world is on us. And I want to just tell you guys, you can stop. You do not have to partner with that. That is not a good intent on you. We're not made to cower. We're not made to go into a hole in a cave and just, right? We're not made for that. But sometimes you have to be told, you can do this, and I give you permission. There's so many times when I've needed, it sounds weird, but I've needed permission from girlfriends to say, Faith, you have permission to do your thing and to not stress about it and go out and rock it. Because if you don't, right, we need each other to say, you have this. And so I'm telling you guys, you have permission to stop all this, okay? No longer do you need to be partnering with stress, okay? And then I just want to answer some of the questions here. Oh, okay, so when stressed, should you stay away from spicy food, say hot, spicy, organic chili? I mean, if you find that your body is reacting, let's just say there's some, acid reflux or some GERD, or if you get symptoms, yeah, that could be a trigger that is causing stress in your system. So I was just, how do you feel when you eat a certain food? Does it make your heart race? Does it make your joints hurt? Does it give you a headache? Yeah, those are stressors that can be internal. And then, all right, you guys are doing so good. Thanks for sticking with me. I always have so much good things to share. Okay. Now, sleep, I'm only going to quickly talk about this because I have a story to share about how sleep and cortisol relate to health and wellness. And 1 in 3 American adults aren't getting enough sleep. I was one of them, and I have a story to share. And then, did you know that when you don't get enough sleep, on average, you want to consume 500 more calories the next day? That's because your body's so tired, and it has to eat food to stay awake, okay? So we all know that that's not good for our weight loss journeys, right? Or what most of us will reach for is the feel-good stuff that's usually sugar and carbs, because we want to feel good and we want to get that quick energy. So keep that in mind. Sleep is going to make a huge difference for literally everything. And I have a story to share with you guys, okay? So the cortisol hormone, remember I was telling you about that? That's your hormone to create stress, because we do need stress to kind of get us going, right? To run from that bear. So I had my cortisol tested because, right, I got to do this stuff so that I can help others. And I found out that my cortisol levels were really high. And if you look at this little chart, there's 2 black lines. One's on the lower range and then one's on the high range. Those are within the values that you're supposed to have this mountain peak happen. And mine's the red line. And you can see that my cortisol levels are in the higher ranges, and that's not good, okay? Because some of the symptoms I was feeling, it was feeling anxious and feeling worked up, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, why am I so worked up? And so I ran my cortisol levels, and then you can see that they kind of stayed high towards the night. And so sometimes that's that night owl thing. So there's times where I would just be up till 2, 3 a.m. just getting it done because I had all this energy. And if you can relate, well, you might have some cortisol patterns happening. But anyways, I had this test done, and it was kind of a good wake-up call, because I have to tell you, I realized I was not getting sleep, okay? Now, for those who know me, I have 2 dogs, okay? And Mr. Cashy Cash is the one that's the, kind of the one in the sweater. And then Luna is the corgi. So here's what was happening. I ran that test, realized I had high stress, high cortisol, And I was thinking, why? I'm like, my life is good. What's going on? Well, Mr. Cashy Cash, we adopted him probably 7 years ago. He was a rescue dog. And the night we got him, he was scared and afraid. And I didn't know dogs. I didn't grow up with dogs. And I realized that he was what's called a burrowing dog, right? So he has to like go in circles and then like has to like get warm. And he like latched onto me as his person. And so what ended up happening was he started to sleep by me, right? And then he would go under the covers and burrow by my legs. And I was like, oh, this is so cute. Oh, he loves me. And so I just was like, okay, that's our thing. And he then gets really hot, and then he would go out of the covers. And then he gets cold, and then he comes under the covers. And then he goes back and forth about 7 times a night. Now, you're all probably laughing at me. And it's okay to laugh at me because I didn't realize I got so used to the dysfunction of my dog going back and forth out of the covers and waking me up 7-8 times in the night for the last 7 years. Okay. Oh, okay. Anyone laughing? I'm laughing at myself. So it was like a hello, Faith. I had to see it on a piece of paper to realize my stress was off the chart because I wasn't getting sleep. And so I'm thankful I ran that because now I'm getting better sleep. I'll have you know. Mr. Cashy Cash, he sleeps in a hut, the end of the bed on a bench, and he stays warm all night in his hut. He gets air, and he doesn't bother waking me up anymore. And so I definitely will say I have noticed a big difference in my energy and how just my body was just like getting more wired. It's better now. And then Luna, you probably wonder, well, where does Luna sleep? Luna is a corgi. She doesn't like to be touched. So she's like, give me space. And so she doesn't bother me at night at all. Okay. So I thought it would be funny to share that with you guys on just how silly sometimes our health issues and what causes us stress and, lack of sleep. Just sometimes it's just, you don't realize the dysfunction and you just get used to that dysfunction, okay? Now, the Dutch test is what I did to test my cortisol level, and then it tests your hormone levels as well. And so if you're ever curious about doing that for yourself, I do those hormone panel tests now, and they have been a game changer for my practice and my patients and me personally. So I'm super excited about the Dutch test, being able to offer that now. Okay, so we are practically done. I just want to do a recap with you guys. So we talked about stress management to identify triggers. You might have to let go. You might have to forgive people. You might have to forgive yourself on like getting worked up and just kind of the junk in the past, and just say, you know what? I'm ready to move on. I don't need to be carrying that garbage on my body or in my mind. I'm ready to let go. And then setting boundaries for yourself, asking yourself, is my bucket already full? Can I take on any more? And if I can't, I am sorry, friend. At this moment, I can't help you right now. I can help later, right? So there's many ways, different seasons where we can take on more and take on less. And that's that whole resilience thing, right? There's going to be stress. There's seasons. You're going to be able to help people sometimes, and you're not going to be able to help people, but don't get guilty. Don't cause stress over it, right? Because we are human. We're all in the same boat. We all have the same exact feelings. Thus, 90% of us going to the doctor because we're stressed. Okay? And then sleep, huge. Maybe evaluate your sleep. And I encourage you in the next 2 weeks, we're going to talk about all the things that you can do to sleep better. And then I know that it's kind of cut out because of the comments, But labs, maybe eventually some point you might need to get some labs. The Dutch lab is really good. And then we'll talk about diet. You know, I save diet for last. Like I said, I don't want to be wasting your money and your time on supplements and all the fancy foods if you can't handle stress and manage it. Okay, now I want to hear from you guys. What is one action step that you are going to do or take away from this talk that you can already feel yourself implementing to manage stress better? If there's anything that stuck out for you. Take magnesium. Yes. Know your trigger points. Yes. Be nice to yourself. I love that. More sleep. I already told the hubs we have a new bedtime. Good. Pay attention to my inner voice. Yes. Sleep patterns. Sleep. Maybe you all have a Mr. Cashy Cash story. I gave you full permission to make fun of me because I can't believe myself. But you know what? Then I have a talk. Then I have a reason to share with you guys, right? And then if you happen to like the tips that I gave in my Instagram, I have it's the link tree. It looks like that. Hold on, I want to do a better one. If you go to the link tree and you click on that in my bio, it'll say Reducing Cortisol Handout. And it has everything that I kind of talked about for internal and external. And then also have like other advice on, you know, when to exercise if you're wanting to balance hormones. And then I have a couple scriptural verses. Oh, hi, Sandy. Oh, I love Sandy. And so you guys can click on the link tree and that's, you know, download that. And then I'm just going to end with the next thing that we're going to talk about in 2 weeks. So I'm just going to be doing these Instagram lives every 2 weeks. I have a new topic. If you miss it, I really hope this gets recorded. I don't know if I did it wrong. I'm messing with things. Anyways, I don't know if it got recorded. I have to figure that out. But in the next 2 weeks, setting yourself up for sleep success because that's crazy, right? So anyways, it was really great seeing you guys. Hopefully you learned a lot and I didn't overwhelm. Thanks for your tips. Thank you for your help. You're amazing. Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate you showing up for my first Instagram Live. It was fun. Oh, thanks, Marla. All right. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Oksana. I'm trying to figure out how to turn it off. All right. Okay. I think I just ended.